Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sustainaverse channel here today. We promised that we will highlight the brands, the designers, and the pioneers who are working towards a truly healthy and ethical fashion industry. And for that, today we have a brand that lives and breathes its mantra of creativity through conservation. So we have today Vriksh Designs, which was started in 2008 by Gunjan Jain. And because of her phenomenal work, she has earned a lot of appreciation, including the Vogue India Fashion Fund Designer of the Year award in 2016. Gunjan, it's such an honor to have you with us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sumana. I'm equally excited to be here with you.
Thank you. And in October 2023, when we launched our magazine, Vriksh Designs kindly agreed to be one of the first featured brands. And we saw in the article that we learned a little bit about your brand values and saw your beautiful products as well. But today I wanted to ask you, how did you begin this journey in the sense that Vriksh Designs caught my attention because I myself have spent a considerable time of my childhood years in Odisha. So, ikat sari work was a staple in my mother's wardrobe. So, I wanted to ask what exactly drew your attention to the handloom sector in Odisha?
Uh, well, Sumana, first of all, thank you for such a lovely introduction. And I'm quite excited to be part of your new venture. It's a wonderful magazine, and thank you for bringing forth sustainable fashion in your magazine. So why Orissa? Well, I have studied fashion design. I'm from Delhi, born and brought up in Delhi. And when I was doing my research while working after college with export houses and buying agencies, I've seen the world of Gap and Taylor, the big brands overseas. But somewhere I felt that in the export houses I was working, there was a certain disconnect between the maker, the process, and the buyer. Um, and I felt that, clothing for me was more emotionally attached with the process and the people. And that was a conscious choice then for me to switch from fast fashion to slow fashion. um, Orissa happened because I realized that there is very little that's come out of Orissa onto the global platform. It's a wealth of textiles and crafts. Orissa is a gold mine of crafts, and the skill level is of utmost perfection, I'd say, and the variety that it offers. As you talked about, the ikat saris in your mother's wardrobe, similarly in my mother's wardrobe, who's an art historian, while growing up, luckily, I was exposed to the different weaves of India, and she would take me through the whole story, of what the motive is all about, and the textile and khadi. And I think I had that natural inclination thanks to her. And so I made a conscious choice to move to Orissa and work with the weavers there, because in spite of the skill and the textiles they offer, I felt there was very little that people knew about Orissa textiles outside Orissa. And that's where I think I wanted to plug in the gap, because beyond Sambalpuri cuts, there is so much more that Orissa offers in terms of its extra weft bomkais, and every region has a story to tell, a unique weave to offer. And I think, yeah, I had that opportunity to expose that in different contemporary ways in my own interpretation to the world.
That's wonderful to hear. And yeah, it's true. I myself come from the east of the country, and I know there is lots more to be told about the eastern, northeastern, and southeastern states of India to the rest of the country as well as the world. So I'm so glad that you chose to do this. So when you talk about almost like a partnership with the viewers community that you have set up over the years, So could you maybe walk us through the process on how it works, right from your design to the weaving to the final production? How does it look like?
Well, uh, it starts over a cup of chai. So, trust building, I think, is the foremost equation that one needs to work on, especially me being an outsider. I'm not an Uriya and I stepped into their space. So, definitely, and understandably, so it was very, very important for them to trust me and include me as part of their landscape of what they're doing. And so, how we work in Vriksh is when we step into a village or an area and we interact with the weavers, we first try to understand the pain points. Uh, is it what is it that that village or those weavers need to plug in to make their weave or their art form much more stronger, much more relevant for today's day and time? So it could be that in some cases it has been that the raw material, um, that they're not able to find the right raw material at the right time. Sometimes it's dyeing, colors that is limiting them. Sometimes it's the designs, the motives, maybe they're not any more relevant. People want something more contemporary. So sometimes it's just markets, they have the right weave, they have the right product, but they've lost the local markets. So plugging into newer markets. So sometimes they have the right product, they have the right market, but somehow the demand, the connect between the buyer and the product and the weaver has disappeared over time because there are replications now, of the same product, the same design in cheaper mill-made fabrics. So there's so many layers to, just why one would want to work with one kind of a weave or one kind of a weaving community. So we try to identify the major pain points, and then that's our starting point. And that's how we build on our narrative and intervention with the weavers to see that what we started with, are we able to achieve it in the end? Odisha has a very migration has been a very, very big issue in Odisha. And a lot of handloom weavers have left their loom to join power loom in Surat, Tamil Nadu, machines, working as security guards sometimes in cities, So the migration sometimes has worked in their favor, but most of the time, we have seen this time and again that there is a lot of health issues that prevail. And so migration and can today's handlooms um, be strengthened in a way with our collaboration that we can have a dialogue on reverse migration? Is it even a possibility that today handloom can be a viable livelihood option that strengthens the weaver socially, economically, and politically? So those are some of the ways that we address when we start working with the community.
That's wonderful. Like you talked about using the handloom sector as a tool to bring back for reverse migration. Of course, it would be that'd be wonderful. Like you're coming from a designer's mindset, but also how to use that talent of yours to bring a social and economical change as well. That's just brilliant. And so over the years, how have you seen that your work has impacted the lives of, because we know majority of the weavers community in these regions are still in rural towns and villages. So how have you been able to impact their lives and able to some sort of help them to uplift their everyday lives?
So we have been, I can very proudly say that one of the, for example, the Tesser village that we work with, where there are communities that there's an entire farm to fashion story going there, where indigenous communities farm their own tussar cocoons. So there's a thriving sericulture practice. Two women thigh reeling and hand spinning their own tussar yarn, and then, of course, hand weaving it into beautiful fabric saris. So the entire cycle of farm to fashion is what we witnessed over the time has, in the last 15 years since I've started working, almost 50% of the weavers who left their loom to work outside Odisha have been able to come back and join the loom again because they saw it's economically viable. And along with that, what we also have been able to successfully bring in is the dignity. So it's not only about compensation, the right wages, livelihood strengthening practice, of course, empowering women, because the major workforce is women in the weaving sector and the craft sector. So along with that, contributing to eco-friendly practices, addressing carbon footprint, the fact that handloom offers a product with very little resources used. Almost there's no use of energy in the handloom sector even today. So today, when we're saying that, we are looking at climate change as a very urgent issue, well, we already have a solution next door. So why not strengthen our fashion industry through those solutions that are already there, and it's a living tradition. Along with that, for our weavers, dignity is something, we find is very, very important. For a lot of weaving areas, we learned that, especially the younger generation, they would leave their loom just because it wasn't the cool thing to do anymore. They would, under peer pressure, a lot of their, friends would be getting odd jobs here and there. A lot of them who studied and passed even college, they wouldn't get the right jobs, but they would still not sit on the loom because it was much below their dignity. So that was also something that we very carefully addressed. We were very sensitive always in all our design processes to include the weavers and regard them as equal designers with us. So it's a jugalbandi, it's a collaboration. And, that's why I always say that when I say Vriksh, I really mean it. It is the tree around which an ecosystem thrives, and we have to depend on each other. And it's the most cohesive dependency of the entire village coming together to make that one sari. So yeah, dignity plays a very important role. We've been consciously submitting our saris and new designs for state award and national awards. And again, with pride, I say that so far my weavers have been able, 8 of them have won state awards and national awards from the President of India and Chief Minister of Odisha on 8 of Vriksh saris. So, of course, once that happens, there's no looking back for the weaver, because the kind of doors that opens up for our weavers. Also, if one weaver in a village gets that kind of recognition, it's a recognition for the entire village, for the entire community, for that state, for India. So it has its own domino effect. And those are some of the conscious ways we try to also empower our weavers, along with, of course, fair wages and finding new markets.
That's just incredible. That's incredible. And thank you for doing this because, yes, when I was starting this magazine, I thought, okay, I'll talk about sustainability, even though I don't come from a fashion background, I come from an engineering background, but the sustainable part of it, like the carbon footprint of fashion industry, these things I can still understand. So do I write about how everything is so gloomy, or do I highlight the people who are trying to find solutions? So that is I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think both are very important to highlight. Um, Once we address the problem and you dig a little deeper, you'll definitely find some people, who are working towards a more sustainable solution. As I said, we're lucky that we're the second largest, population in the world that's involved in crafts. So that itself is evident enough that somewhere it must be working for
Yeah,
them, for the
yeah,
people, for our socio-economic fabric, for, you know, what Gandhiji talked about, strengthening the local economy first. So, well, yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely some winners out there, positive examples, people, we want to look up to who have been tirelessly working to strengthen these cottage industries. And yes, yes, I think these are exciting times for India, definitely.
absolutely. I mean, one way is to look at it is that, of course, the work you are doing and the other brands that are working like you are doing highly inspiring, definitely. But like you said, you're bringing back the dignity of these communities, these artisan communities. And now the next generations are going to consider this as their crafts. This is like reviving in all its truest sense. I mean,
True.
getting them to state and national levels and seeing that, okay, your art is valued, not just I'm not the one valuing it, I'm not the only one valuing it, the entire country is seeing it. That yes, it has a domino effect. Now maybe there are other crafts villages also who are thinking, okay, this is a good profession for me. So thank you. But this is why, I mean, it's always so wonderful to talk to people who think about it look at it through this kind of a lens. So brilliant. And now, if I could talk about another beauty aspect of your work, which is your new collection, and if I could speak in my dialect, we call it the Pattachitra Collection, if I can speak it. So it's I've seen a few of your products. It's beautiful, and yes, we have here in Bengal also. We study a little bit about this art form when we were children. We did study. I want to hear from you how did you start this it's beautiful, your products. So how did
Thank
it
you so
start?
much. Yes, we are very excited about Pattachitra. It's a very new genre even for us in textiles, because so far in 15 years, we've been mostly working with weavers, and primarily we work with the Jala technique, which is an extra weft technique, and Ikat. Uh, Beyond that, we've also worked with, we block printers in Rajasthan. We've experimented with on artisan silks. We've tried to revive back natural dyeing. Our narratives have been a lot around Odisha, and the whole culture of Odisha. Pattachitra happened, as you rightly said, it's a folk art of Odisha. And there are Pattachitra folk artists. It's an ancient art form, and Ras Leela of Krishna and Radha mostly demonstrated and illustrated in Pattachitra. What we did, and it was the first time we tried juxtaposing the weaving art form and a painting folk art form together. And that's what's the fusion all about in this collection. The narrative that we've taken is interestingly not the Ras Leela, but actually the backdrop of these patta paintings, which were the flora and fauna, behind the entire scene of the gopis and the Krishna Ras Leela. They Pattachitra almost offers a botanical study of the flora and the fauna of Odisha. You'll find the banyan tree, which you actually, when you enter most of the villages of Odisha, you're welcomed by this beautiful banyan tree everywhere. It's supposed to be auspicious and healthy. There are coconut trees, mango trees. Yeah, so I carefully studied what was that entire biodiversity that was offered as a backdrop, and we took that in the forefront. We played with proportions. So, we Pattachitra are very miniature art forms. The figures are very miniature like. So we blew it up and we went out of proportion to see what works. And so that gave a slightly contemporary twist to the entire art form. And then, of course, with the Jugalbandi, with the Pattachitra artists, we created an entire jungle scene. This is first in our series. We call it the Earth, Bhumi. Hopefully, in the next 2 years, we'll be able to work on two more series, the sky and the water. And yeah, the another aspect that was interesting was it's a multicolored art form. So we wanted to see what works if we just use the simple ink. So a black color as the outline becomes the only expression in the painting. So how would that really work around was another aspect. So yes, it's a lot of things coming together, and it was very challenging for us. It was very challenging for the Pattachitra artists we worked with, because there were just so many of permutation combinations that we were working with. So we're very, very excited to launch it.
Wow, that sounds beautiful, because it's also like a learning opportunity for me, because I find the arts and crafts professionals, like, they come from a different world for me. So hearing about the process from you is also, it's, thank you for sharing that. Uh, all the best with this new collection. And
Thank you so much.
lastly, just one thing I would like to ask, how has been the perception of your brand until now? How has been the uh, acceptance among the young generations towards saris? I mean, are they taking it as that graceful sari that we know of, or do you see still you still need to convince people?
Well, that's a brilliant question, because when I started out with Vriksh, I was barely in my 20s, and I couldn't relate to the sari myself. I could barely drape a sari myself. And then, who would have thought that, I would be living, breathing saris, and, the handlooms, and, the traditional narratives and all of that. So to contextualize and make it relevant for the Gen Z, or if I can be a little more pragmatic and include me and say the millenniums, uh, yes, it was a challenge. And unlike, say Banaras or Rajasthan or Gujarat, where so much of experimentation has already happened, and, it's been thriving clusters of craft, and they've taken innovation for many years. For last, post independence, they've been working on their innovation and all. Orissa had a perception of, oh yeah, it's the tribal culture. Oh yeah, traditional weaves. Yes, yes. Oh, my mother and my grandmother. Oh, my grandmother used to wear Orissa silks. So, there was initially, I faced this perception with younger clients, especially, about not being able to relate to Orissa textiles, comfortably, and they would look at it and put them in a box of tradition, of, yes, timeless pieces, but very, very old pieces. And that was what was challenging for us, to break the notion and make it relevant. So in our narratives, in our textures of fabrics, make it more flowy, softer, much more drapable, easier to wear. We shifted from very heavy weight pieces to, working and engineering on lighter fabrics. The narratives would sometimes, shift from, say, the Puri temple to Yayoi Kusama's polka dots. Why not? And call our collection the 8 minute, interpreting time in our lives. So, the narratives had to also, we had to play around with, to keep it relevant for the younger generation. The drapes, we worked very closely with the drapes. So there are more than 300 drapes that India offers in saris. So, hey, why do we want to restrict ourselves as designers to that one drape? So, we've been experimenting with different drapes to keep the younger generation excited. I mean, we've come up with a halter neck sari drape. And, you don't need a blouse, you don't need a petticoat, it's just two knots, and hey, you have a halter neck gown going for your evening cocktail. So, yeah, I mean, over the time, we've consciously worked to keep it relevant for younger generation, and it's been exciting. There was a time I was very amused and felt very satisfied. About 2 years back, a young woman in her 30s called me from London and said, I'd like to wear a Vriksh sari for a friend's wedding, which is a church wedding. And I said, oh, that's very interesting. And how would you like to dress up? I mean, how would you like to drape yourself? She's like, well, I saw a picture of one of the models wearing your sari on your website, and she was sporting it with a belt and boots, and I think I'd like to replicate that. Can you help me with the blouse, which has collars like the one the model is wearing that you've designed? And I said, why not? And yes, I think those are some of the ways I think we've been able to get our Gen Z into our pockets.
It's wonderful. I mean, yeah, it's important to get excited for yeah, even my generation also, it takes some time to consider saris, but then gradually I think over the past few years, many more women are considering saris because of brands like yourself, like because I remember before COVID time, I don't remember how many people would go online and shop for saris, but
Yes,
now we have a plethora of options for saris. So thank
absolutely.
you. I mean, you put so much thought into it, and thanks to that, I think many more people are going to be now encouraged to
Yes,
wear.
and thank you to the younger generation. And the best part, the fact that we get our direct feedback from our customers, and that's the most valuable feedback for us to keep going, to keep innovating. And from the recent feedback we've got, I'm happy to say that and share we'll be launching our first clothing line this year. So yes, we are getting into stitched garments, so outerwear, dresses. Yes, you'll be seeing that on our Vriksh page very soon.
Beautiful. It's just a lot of good news all together. So thank you. Thank you so much. It has been there's one thing to listen about you from all the features that you see about Gunjan and Vriksh's work, and there's a completely different thing to hear so much in-depth stories from you. So thanks a lot for
Thank
sharing these things with us, and to everyone watching, I would say that it's an honor to have such people on our magazine, because we are on this mission to, just like they are curating beautiful garments and products, we are also curating these brands that are showing that there's a path ahead, that there's nothing to, I mean, feel so gloomy about all the time. So all you have to do is join us on this journey. So I would request you to visit our magazine, go to our October edition once, read the Vriksh by Gunjan article if you have not read it yet, and also look at the rest of our website. You will find many other interesting stories about fast fashion, about microplastics, as well as how there are companies and brands and designers working to solve such problems like Gunjan. And in the end, I would just like to say that it has been an honor, and I wish you all the very best with your new clothing line as well as with your new collection. I just want to see how this brand grows, and it's thank you so much. It's a
thank
privilege.
you, Sumana, and all the very best for your magazine as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Wish you a good day.
Thanks.